Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something, well, quite unexpected from Tutankhamun's tomb.
Mm-hmm. Not the usual treasures you think of, right?
Exactly. We're talking about two small wooden boxes, found in 1925, actually, so a few years after Howard Carter's big discovery.
Yeah, 3 years later. And inside, well, not gold or jewels.
No, something much more personal, almost overlooked at first. The mummified remains of two babies.
Two stillborn daughters.
Uh,
His daughters. It's quite something.
It really is. So this specific box, number 317, you said.
That's the one, box 317. And inside, it wasn't simple. There were two coffins covered in this black resin.
Okay.
And then inside each of those, another smaller coffin, this time covered in gold leaf, nested,
Like Russian dolls, almost?
Sort of, yeah. And inside those innermost coffins were the tiny mummies themselves. They labeled them 317A and 317B.
And these outer coffins, they weren't just plain boxes either, were they?
No, far from it. They were anthropoid-shaped, like human bodies, like the big royal coffins.
Wow.
Black bases, but decorated with gold foil, depicting wrapped mummies, with the blue and gold striped wigs, the broad collars.
So all the royal symbols, even in miniature.
Exactly. It really signals their status. These weren't just discarded. They were seen as royal.
And where was this box found? That's important too, right?
Absolutely. It was in the treasury chamber.
Right.
Right there, alongside other really significant items, Shabtai figures, other boxes, even a model boat.
And near Queen Tai's hairlock coffins too, I think.
Yes, that's right. So its placement definitely suggests these remains were considered important, valuable in their own way.
So, okay, tiny mummies, royal coffins. But how did we learn more? I mean, initially they were just, well, small mummies.
Well, modern science really helped there. CT scans around 2012 or so gave us a much clearer picture.
Ah, technology.
Exactly. They could revise the estimated gestational ages. One was about 24 weeks, the other maybe 36 weeks. Quite a difference.
Significant. And the scans showed how they were mummified.
Yes, and very carefully. Organs removed in the smaller one, packing materials used, preserving them for the afterlife.
Even a mask. I read somewhere.
Yeah, the smaller one, 317A, even had a tiny gilded cartonnage mask. That level of care is, well, it's striking for stillborn infants.
It really speaks volumes. But the big question, I guess, how do we know they were Tutankhamun's daughters?
Oh, right. That came down to DNA. The Tutankhamun Family Project did extensive testing.
And the results?
Pretty conclusive. Over 99.9% probability that Tutankhamun was the father.
Wow. Okay. So that's settled then. What about the mother?
Well, the DNA pointed strongly towards the mummy known as KV-21A. Given her location and other factors, she's widely believed to be Ankhesenamun.
His wife. And
Yeah.
also his half-sister.
Correct, which, brings up the whole issue of royal intermarriage in Egypt.
Right. Keeping the bloodline pure, but potentially causing genetic problems.
That's the thinking. It might increase the risk of complications, maybe contributing to these stillbirths. It seems Tutankhamun and Ankhesenamun tried several times for an heir.
But none survived, and he died so young, what, 19?
Around that age, yes. And crucially, with no living heir.
Which must have thrown things into chaos politically.
Oh, absolutely. A major succession crisis. You see it reflected in what Ankhesenamun did next, trying to secure the throne. It underlines how vital an heir was.
So burying these babies in his tomb, while maybe not unique, was deeply tied to that idea of lineage.
Precisely. It shows the profound importance placed on the royal line, even in such tragic circumstances. It's this mix of state importance and personal loss.
It really humanizes them, doesn't it? Beyond the gold masks and the power, there's this very relatable grief.
Absolutely. And, people often bring up the curse of the pharaohs, which is uncommon. But it's worth noting, there's no real scientific basis for it, and the stories usually focus on disturbing Tutankhamun himself, not these poor children. That wasn't really part of the narrative.
Good point. So wrapping this up then, these tiny coffins, this discovery, what's the main takeaway for you?
For me, it's how powerfully it personalizes the past. It's not just about pharaohs and monuments. It's about a young couple, a family, facing immense loss. And it gives us this incredibly poignant insight into their beliefs about life, death, the afterlife, and just how central that royal lineage was to everything, even for babies who never drew breath.
A really intimate glimpse behind the veil of history. So for everyone listening, maybe think about how this small, almost missed detail changes the picture of ancient Egypt. It reminds us that even within these grand narratives of power, there are these deeply human stories of love, loss, and belief.